More than 40 asylum seekers have now been found in a remote part of Western Australia. A second group discovered at an Indigenous campsite yesterday. Nine's political editor Charles Croucher joins us right now from Canberra. Charles, good morning to you. The opposition using this incident to criticise the government's border policy.
Yeah, g'day Alex, they are, and that's not surprising given the terms and given what's happened here. Now, this is a remote part of Western Australia. It's somewhere between 2 and 3 groups that's still being established. Somewhere between 35 and 40, mostly men, if not all men, have made their way to the Australian shoreline. It said they've come from Pakistan and Bangladesh through Indonesia and then through the people smuggling routes there. Politically, this is damaging for the government, and there are many on that front bench that have held this portfolio before and know the troubles this caused during the Rudd and Gillard years. They will be keen to end whatever it is that is getting the appeal back for this kind of people smuggling, even though the policy hasn't changed. David Littleproud spoke on the program a short time ago.
The damage is already done. You don't get on a boat unless you've got something to sell, these people, and they've been telling them that Australia's borders are porous, and then when you get here, you're going to get out. We let out 149 detainees despite the warnings.
The Prime Minister is heading to WA tomorrow. That is the state where these arrivals are happening. Expect to hear more about this. I would assume there'll be an increase in patrols out there, plus those forward advertising that the government is doing where they advertise in places like Indonesia, like Bangladesh, saying that anyone that arrives here in Australia by boat will not be resettled and will not eventually live here in Australia. Alex.
Charles Croucher, thank you.
Well, more than 40 asylum seekers have now been found in a remote part of Western Australia. A second group was discovered at an Indigenous campsite yesterday.
Nine's political editor Charles Croucher joins us right now from Canberra. Good morning, Charles. What has the government and opposition had to say about this?
Good morning. Well, from what we see, that second group has been found like 50-odd k's north of where the first group was found. Now, because these are what the government deems as operational matters or on-water matters, they're not confirming or commenting on exactly where this group come from. It is potentially from the same boat, it is potentially a second boat. The opposition, though, are more than happy to comment. They say this is indicative of a government that has lost control of the border and is unable to maintain constant watch over that, vast northwest coastline of our country. This is fertile ground for the Liberal Party. They have prosecuted entire elections based on the issue of people smuggling in the past, and they'd be more than happy to do it again. Peter Dutton is a former Home Affairs Minister. He knows this area well, knows this portfolio well, and regardless of the criticisms of him in that role, particularly in the last week, he sees this as a potential positive for the Liberal Party. For Labor, they are putting out the point that this is the same policy that the coalition ran. The actual policy at our border hasn't changed. What we will see, though, is the Prime Minister head to WA late tonight. He'll be there tomorrow. I expect to see some announcements regarding border security because there are many in that cabinet, many on the Labor front bench that have had this portfolio before. They remember how damaging and how disruptive boat arrivals were during the Rudd and Gillard years, and they'll be doing whatever they can to stop this and to get this off the agenda, particularly with an election a year away.
So, Charles, you say the PM heading to Perth with his cabinet. Do you think border security is going to be one of the big issues there, or what else is on the agenda?
Well, it is now. It has to be because of this arrival and because of the opposition has effectively a field and attack line that they can land. It's been a difficult start to the year for the opposition, given what's gone on, given they were outfoxed on the tax cuts. Labor seemingly had momentum. There's good news out of the government in terms of the economic numbers, particularly with inflation. So this is now the task at hand. There is pressure on the Immigration Minister. That will only grow with this arrival, and that is if this arrival is a one-off. If there are more following on from the High Court's decision last year, then that will make it even more difficult. The government also in WA will talk minerals, really crucial developments in the nickel industry. There's 10,000 jobs effectively on the line now because the market is being flooded from Indonesia and China. So that's a really crucial problem to solve for the government in WA. Always the issue of GST allocation over there. And then the real nuts and bolts issues. Health and education are the big challenges for the government this year. We'll hear more about that as well.
All right. Charles Croucher in Canberra. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Welcome back to Weekend Today. More than 40 asylum seekers have been found along the coast of remote WA, bringing questions over border security back into the political debate. Let's bring in today's talkers, Nationals leader David Littleproud and Emma Gillespie from the Daily Oz. We'll start with you, David. Peter Dutton was very quick to label the Prime Minister weak over this issue, but the boss of Border Patrol has suggested that those kinds of comments could actually play into the people smugglers' hands. Do you think you need to rein it in a little and present a united front when it comes to border security?
Oh, well, look, I think the damage is already done. You don't get on a boat unless you've got something to sell, these people, and they've been telling them that Australia's borders are porous, and then when you get here, you're going to get out. We let out 149 detainees, despite the warnings as far back as June by the High Court. The Minister was given briefings but didn't bother to turn up to them, about doing preemptive measures to keep them in detention. These people smugglers have found a product. I mean, the damage was done, and you don't get on those boats, you don't sell that product unless you can convince people when you get here it's going to be okay. And this is where we need to make sure the resources are there for Border Force to intercept these people, because this is dangerous. This is people's lives at risk as well, beyond our borders. This is people putting their lives at risk, and we need to make sure that we send very strong messages that they sent to Nauru and sent back home. But this is all about the makings of the government and the perception that people smugglers are able to sell in these relative countries.
It might be a perception. Border Patrol has pointed out that the policy itself hasn't changed. Emma, does it worry you that these groups were seemingly able to get into Australia without being detected?
I think the most important thing to remember here is there's still a lot that we don't know about this situation. It's unfolding. There's a lot of detail that's still missing. The second thing is that I would sort of urge people against the initial panic that we see in response to a story like this. These people have probably been through hell to get to where they are. They've got a long road ahead of them. It's a very, very complex situation. They've likely fled some kind of persecution. So, I would say hopefully this is an isolated incident. It's not as cut and dry as it may seem, and, a lot yet to come.
Pressure is mounting on the Prime Minister after a second group of asylum seekers was found in a remote outstation in WA's north, prompting concerns there may have been more than one boat arrival. The 13 men from India and Bangladesh turned up at an Indigenous campsite just hours after 30 asylum seekers were found in the town of Beagle Bay, north of Broome, on Friday. The opposition accusing Anthony Albanese of losing control of Australia's borders.
I don't want to go back to Pakistan. They're treating us like a human being.
We've got a weak Prime Minister when it comes to our borders. He's allowed this boat through.
We do not seek to politicise national security issues.
They're now in the hands of Border Force officials.